Hello and welcome back. Today I've got another calligraphy ink, and this one is called Vintage Valet, and this is by Ferris Wheel Press. And of course they've got this beautiful box with the beautiful artwork on it. And I have really been enjoying their calligraphy inks because I learned how to use a dip pen, kind of. Now that doesn't mean I could do calligraphy, like I don't have fancy handwriting or anything like that, which is something I would like to work on. But I learned how to get the nibs to write. So I talked about that in a previous video. If you want to go back and watch that, you can. But now that I have figured it out, I can test out these inks and do a better job of that, because of course you put this ink in a fountain pen because it will mess up your pens. You can only use these with dip pens, so sadly, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and put this in here. These inks are waterproof and smudge resistant, and they're supposed to be like fade, what do they call it? Light fast. So it shouldn't fade because they're supposed to be light fast. So it's got shimmer in it, and this is supposed to be a very like a brown kind of a, I don't know, somebody described it as like looking like leather, kind of. We'll see. I'm just getting all those shimmers down a little bit because I've never opened this bottle before, and it seems like the first time I use a bottle, the shimmers stick really bad. And of course, we'll be bringing back my friend the little stir plate here. I think that's what it's called. Move this out of the way and move it down a little bit. And we will also test this on some regular copy paper as well. Let me just get this open. Yeah, look at that. Look how pretty. Okay, so shaking the bottle causes all these bubbles, and that's why I wanted to go to these little stirrers. I think these are called stir rods. They come in different sizes, but I got these tiny ones because they fit down inside the small bottles more easily. And they seem to be effective enough for the larger bottles, so I just use those. Okay, let me get that stirring. And the stirring seems to cause fewer bubbles than shaking, so that's a plus as well. Get this turned on and get that moving. All right, there it goes. Okay, so that'll get the shimmers dispersed nicely so that hopefully they're not all just sitting down at the bottom. Sometimes I'll move this around a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's turn that off. Let's see how this looks. And calligraphy inks are a little bit more opaque, at least the ones that I've used. So you could use them on black paper even, and they should show. There we go. And so you don't get the same types of special effects as you would with fountain pen inks. You're not getting maybe like the shading or everything. That's all controlled by the pen, because depending on how you write with it, you can get like line variation and stuff like that. So this is the one that I've been using. It's a little teeny tiny one. I'll leave a link for it down below. It's called a Hunts, and I forget what the number is, but I'll leave it in the description. All right, let's get this stirred up here. All right, there we go. And we'll dip it in and get it. And then you can see the ink is on there, and I just shake off in case there's a big drop on there. Okay, so Vintage Valet. Oops. There we go. And this is by Ferris Wheel Press. And this is not really the correct way to use this pen. Normally with calligraphy, you do each like stroke of the letter at a different angle and stuff like that, because when you drag this pen up, if you're not careful, you can actually snag it and it'll splatter ink everywhere. Anyway, but I'm not a professional calligrapher. I'm not doing things correctly anyway. I just like the ink, and I would like to work on my handwriting someday. So let's see how this looks on here. Oops, let me stir it first. That's the only downside to shimmer inks, is that you do need to shake the bottle or stir them pretty frequently to make sure that the shimmers aren't just sinking down to the bottom. But the payoff is that you got a beautiful shimmery ink. So completely worth it in my opinion. Okay, so what I've learned is you just go, once you get it going, there we go, really light on the upstroke and then press down on the downstroke like this. And you get this nice line variation. Let me see if I can... Takes a little bit of focus because you got to be careful not to drag the nib the wrong way, and reaching around the camera like this is a very bad angle for what I'm trying to do. So I'm just making excuses for my bad writing is basically what this comes down to. But you can see here, if you start with a very light pressure, you get a very thin line. And you add more pressure, you get a thicker line, and then a thin line, like that. And I've seen some people do like, oops, I need more ink already. Let me get a little more ink on the pen here. There we go. Okay. A thin line, thick line, thin line, thick line, thin line, thick line, like this. And so you can get all kinds of nice effects. But here's how that looks. And this color is so pretty. It definitely has that vintage feel to it, the color does. And you've got this lovely sparkle on top. It's so nice. I hope the camera is picking this up because this is a really beautiful color. And this one thing about calligraphy pens over fountain pens is that fountain pens you can't get this dramatic of a line variation from what I understand. You know, again, I'm not an expert and I'm new to all of this, but apparently the fountain pens, you can't get this nice line variation as dramatic as you can with a dip pen. And so that's one of the reasons that people really like the dip pens, is for that line variation for doing calligraphy. So if I can ever, you know, find time to practice and work on my calligraphy, I might one day have something to show for it. But for now, I just like how pretty the ink is. I like just using the dip pens. You can write, if you're careful, you can just write normally with them. I'm trying to get this to dry. They do take, it seems like this takes a little longer to dry than fountain pen ink, but it's waterproof in the end. And yeah, so you can see how beautiful this, how beautifully this writes. And because of the line variation, you get the effect of shading, like what a shading ink would give you. Just because where the line is thicker, it's darker. Where it's thinner, it's lighter. So you can kind of control the shading a little bit that way. And here is the swatch that we made. It's mostly dry. But you can see the shimmer, the beautiful golden shimmer sitting on top there. Very, very pretty color. And I would love to get more of these. I would like to get all the different colors they have. They have the full rainbow of colors. But, you know, I have to budget and be careful what I get. So I got these because they're a little bit more unusual. I do have some, I guess you could call them like normal calligraphy inks that are just like the cheap ones you can get at most hobby stores. And those come in like the primary colors mostly. And then there's gold and silver. And so if you'd like to see those, let me know and I can do a review of those. If there's any other colors or anything you'd like to see, any other like fountain pens or anything, if I have them or if I can get them, we can do a review of those. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to see more. And thank you so much for watching. You have a great day.